Welcome, everyone. We're so excited that you're here today. We have more people joining us in just a moment, so we'll give it a minute or two to let as many people into the room as possible. We're thrilled that you're here, and we're looking forward to sharing more with you about American Family Insurance with my guests, Brittney and Jen, who we'll introduce in just a moment. But while we're waiting, if you have access to the chat, or maybe we don't, I don't think we do. So never mind. I was going to invite people to type into the chat where they're calling in from. But we are calling in from, I'm calling in from Florida's Space Coast. So nice and sunny, warmer here than where it is for Jen and Brittney, who are calling in from the frozen north. Where are you guys calling in from today?
We are calling in from Madison, Wisconsin. So, yes, we are still frozen here. It's a balmy 20 degrees, but we should be on the upswing here, hopefully.
So yeah, 20 degrees is a little bit cooler than I would like it to be. So warm spring is around the corner, right? I think we heard
That's
Groundhog
exactly what
Day,
we're
six
looking
more
forward
weeks. Spring is around the corner. Good. Well, I do want to go ahead and get started because I do know that we have 1 hour and you have a great story to tell. So first, let me welcome everyone who's joining us today. My name is Beverly Kroll. I'm the managing partner of Design Learning. We are owned and operated by Peter Block, who is the author of Flawless Consulting. And Flawless Consulting is how I came to know Brittney and Jen. I had the great pleasure of traveling to Madison, Wisconsin, not in the wintertime. Thank you
to.
both very much. To partner with them and their talent acquisition team to deliver flawless consulting programs. And while there, I just became very impressed with them, their organization, and all of the great work that they were doing. And in the spirit of passing that along to others, I invited them to join us to just chat about their work and how they approach talent acquisition, some of the interesting things that they're doing, and just have a conversation and share that information with others. So let me tell you a little bit about American Family. American Family Insurance, they currently have over 10,000 employees. So you guys are probably pretty busy supporting nearly 1,500 managers in 50 different states, focused predominantly in Madison, Boston, and Phoenix. And your talent acquisition team currently has around 19 employees. So a large organization, a lot of work that's going on. Brittney Peters is the director of talent acquisition, and Jen Thue is the enterprise claims recruiting senior manager. So both are lovely ladies who I had a wonderful opportunity to get to meet, and I'm excited that you get to meet them today as well. So, Brittney, I'll give you a chance just to say hello and share anything else with the group that you'd like to about American Family and about your organization.
Sure. Thanks, Beverly. And thanks so much for the invite of having us. We're super excited to be here and share a little bit more about our story and our journey and our time together developing as a team using flawless consulting and the benefit that we've seen from it. So, just maybe a little bit more about our company and like our talent acquisition team and what we recruit for. So, as Beverly mentioned, we support all different areas of our corporate enterprise. So we do recruiting for agency owner recruiters, or excuse me, agency owners, recruiting for our corporate workforce. And then we also have what we call our high volume area that we recruit for, which think about our contact centers where we're doing large group hires at any one time. So we hire around 1,500 people a year. So it's a lot of volume that we're doing as a team. So it's really important to us that we are crisp and clear on our role as a strategic partner to the business, but then also our processes and how we're moving through them to make sure, again, we're bringing in the best talent to the organization.
Yeah, thank you. Just a little bit of activity on a daily basis for you.
Mhm. Just a little, just a
Just a
little.
little bit, just a little
The,
bit.
the,
And
great, the
Jen,
great thing is like that's the only hires. So obviously we get to interact with thousands of more candidates, which is really
yes,
fun nationwide.
that is awesome. That is awesome. And do some really cool activities, which we'll talk about. I know that when I was with you, you had some wonderful events happening. Jen, anything you'd like to add about the group that you represent and what you do within American Family?
Yeah, yeah. So I am an old timer with American Family. So I've been with American Family over 23 years. So it's been really fun to see American families shift and evolve and grow. And I think that's going to be sort of the baseline of what we talk about here as well. So as the company shifts and grows, we knew we needed to continue to shift and grow as well to continue to support where the enterprise was headed. So I, again, thank you so much for the invite. This is so exciting. And I'm excited to share what we've done. So I lead a team of recruiters, and one of the cool things about our talent acquisition is we have a really big breadth of experiences within our recruiting team, and a lot of different backgrounds that have come into recruiting. So we have a lot of great diverse perspectives. So right now my team consists of, I now have all of high volume. So that is, again, sort of that entry level, group hire type of classes. I also have campus. So we have a campus team that supports recruiters and the partnerships we have with the university. I support all of the claims organization, which truly is the heart of what we do in insurance, right, is the claims side of it. And then I also have sort of like a mismatch, like a hodgepodge of more entry level roles across the entire enterprise. So kind of a big team that supports quite a few areas of the organization.
Mm-hmm. And I know when I was there visiting with you, we had the opportunity to see the mascot from the university that you support.
Yes, University of Wisconsin-Madison, Bucky. He's a big deal around here. He's a big deal. That was a big deal.
He was there visiting, so we took a nice group picture with Bucky, which was a lot of fun. Well, thank you both for finding time in what's obviously a very busy schedule to come and visit with us and share some of your best practices with those who've joined us today and those who will be listening in later on. So let's just dive in and chat and learn a little bit more about what you're doing. So, Brittney, I think I'd start with you and ask, share a little bit more about your role and really how you see your team's purpose within the organization, and more specifically, how you view the partnerships that you have with your internal clients.
Yes, thanks, Beverly. So my role as the leader of talent acquisition is to really make sure our team is positioned as what we believe our role is, which are strategic talent advisors to the business. And I truly believe that. And I think what's great is that in building the partnerships with the business, they also see us as that. I was actually just in a conversation yesterday with our chief technology officer who said talent acquisition is a strategic weapon when you use them that way. And that was really, really neat to hear, because I absolutely believe that too. We do not want to be, nor do we, do I want our team positioned to be just transactional recruiters that move hires through a process. I believe that we have a lot of skills and value that we can offer the organization. Everything from talent market insights that we gain in understanding our talent markets and where those skills exist, from being able to have specific skills in screening talent and finding, using those probing questions to make sure that we're getting at the best talent. We also have a wealth of resources as it relates to sourcing. So, through various partnerships that we've built, tools and technology that we have access to, being able to source, the best talent that is going to meet the skill sets that we have. So I believe, like, as a team, we are armed both from a skill set perspective, but also as a tool with the tools that we have to be that talent advisor. So really, our journey was about, if we have everything that we need, how do we ensure like we're showing up with that same level of credibility that's needed to build those relationships, which of course is built upon trust, but then it's also competence in knowing your trade. So I do believe like we have a fantastic team that has great relationship building skills. I also believed that we had the competence in knowing, what we had at our disposal in terms of tools and skills and resources. And really, it was about how can we then ensure that our consulting skills and being able to leverage all of those things together were honed in a way that really would just maximize the value in every interaction from the very first conversation that we had with the business.
Good. Thank you. And I'm curious because Jen, you've mentioned you've been at American Family for over 20 years. Based on where talent acquisition is today, from where it started, how have you seen it evolve over those past 20 years?
Yeah, great question. And I have been in talent acquisition for about 20 of those years. So I have seen it shift and evolve, things we've tried, things we haven't tried, what's old is new again. Um, but I love this part of the story because it's something that we reiterate with the recruiters a lot, the why, right? What are we here for, right? We don't just fill jobs, close a rec, move on to the next one. It really is, when you think about it, really truly building the future of American Family, right? Like what is the future of American Family? It's the people. So while we definitely we work closely with hiring managers to get them the talent that we need, we are really actually looking a little bit outside the box. We have shifted from what we used to call a post and pray methodology, right? Where we would just post it and just sit there with our fingers crossed and we'll work with what we got, right? Whatever we get, that's our pool. To being a lot more strategic and going out and finding that passive talent. That passive talent is such a wonderful source of talent, right? They end up coming in, being higher performers, staying a little bit longer. And everybody that we bring in, right, it helps shape who we are as a company, how we show up, how we continue to grow and evolve. We don't just look for people that have Java, right? We make sure that people come in, understand the role, understand what they're getting into, understand the value proposition of what American Family offers, and how their skills fit in and can really drive us forward. So we're here to save money too, right? It's a big strategic goal of ours to continue to be cost conscious. We want to really ensure we have good screening on the front end to make sure that, we're providing the manager with the most qualified candidates. So we're not having bad turnover, like the bad hires that turn over quite a bit. So, and I think the other thing that's really important about what recruiters do is we talk a lot about the candidate experience and how we treat them. They could be policyholders of American Family, right? They could be potential policyholders. And depending on the experience they have, that's really important. And of course, just being really clear and fair across the process is really important. So we really work hard to not just fill a seat, but we really want to help the organization build a team that really, again, drives us forward as an enterprise.
Thank you. And, and it's curious because you've said we want to build a team, and your recollection of the past where the philosophy was post and pray to now where Brittney, you heard the your chief technology officer calling you a strategic weapon. So you've shifted from the methodology or the mindset of post and pray to that of being a strategic weapon. So Brittney, what are some things, I think very tactical things that you've put into place that's helped drive that change?
Yeah, so as Jen mentioned, we've moved much more to actively sourcing passive candidates. But to do that well, you have to have a really sound understanding of the role that you're recruiting for. Everything from the skills that it's going to take to the locations that are going to be needed to the level of experience and talent that you're going to need. And you're not going to get that from a job description, especially with how bland job descriptions have become these days, or at least in our organization. So to get that information, you really need to have a really solid intake. We call it our intake conversation with the business leader. So when a role is open, that's where we see our first opportunity to not only build that relationship with the hiring leader, but to showcase, again, the value that we can provide by asking really solid, thoughtful questions, building our understanding of the role, building our understanding of any niche skill sets that may be needed, asking them about how we can leverage their network, asking them about how we can leverage organizations that they may be affiliated with. So that has been the heart of what we've developed as a team, is just not just going off of what was in the job description, but building a much more thorough understanding to the candidate profile we're trying to recruit for, and the gap that business leader is looking to fill within their team.
Yeah. And I think, it would be curious. I think many people would be curious to know what exactly is in your intake. Do you have a form? Do you have a checklist? What does that look like?
Yes. So we do have a form. Certainly there's some flexibility with the form, but in essence, it's first of all just reviewing the nuts and bolts of the job, like those basic
Mhm.
things that you would do just to make sure that again, what you got is exactly like what that leader was expecting.
Mhm.
Because sometimes we'll pull up the profile and talk through like, what that leader thinks they're hiring for, and then you see that hiring leader going for, no, that's not, I was expecting to have this much experience, or I was expecting the role to be doing this. So
Mhm.
it's first it's validation of making sure that we have the right role at the right level,
Mhm.
um, at the right location. We are a hybrid organization, which has created some additional complexity as it relates to just even understanding, the work environment. Is this person
Mhm.
coming in hybrid? Are they working primarily office? Are they working primarily home? So it's the nuts and bolts of the role, but then it is going into more so of the skill sets. So again, a job description only takes you so far in terms of the accountability, but it's then being able to draw out what the skills are that's going to make somebody successful in that role.
Mhm.
So we do have some questions that speak to like being able to talk through the skills, being able to talk through like any job specific requirements that the role may have. Again, asking about professional networks or any affiliated organizations that could help get us some leads in terms of great sourcing opportunities that the recruiter could have.
Mhm.
So having that form is really just a guide to make sure we're touching on some of those key things to set us up for success.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the form is a wonderful, um, I guess, outline for conversation, right? Dialogue and conversation with your internal client you are supporting. And it leads me to, my question of asking and wondering, what was it, either Jen or Brittney, that led you to this understanding or this belief that more skill development was needed within your own TA team, perhaps to help navigate those conversations through the process of consulting?
Yeah. We as a leadership team were starting to notice inconsistencies in how the recruiters were approaching their work. So everybody had their own style, their own method, their own process, and quite frankly, the output of that is managers were getting very different experiences depending on what recruiter was assigned to their requisition. So one of the things we identified was that the qualities that make somebody a strong internal consultant, they weren't always there, right? Sometimes we were acting more like order takers than true partners. So, we wanted to make sure that we elevated talent acquisition for this organization and talk about the value that we bring to the organization. So we really needed to do a mind shift to we're not just filling roles, we're truly consulting, right? So ultimately what we were trying to accomplish is more consistency and really strengthen the relationships that we have, not only with the hiring managers, but with the business ourselves. So we were just trying to raise the bar for our team, help them build credibility with maybe some partners they haven't worked with, and make sure that we're seen as the expert in the talent acquisition space. So that's
Mhm.
ultimately what the problem statement was, um, that drove us to reaching out to you.
Good. So you've now had, a few months. Your internal team has been practicing and now has a common framework with which to operate. What what are you noticing that's different since that has happened?
Yes. So I think the biggest thing is just like a sense of empowerment and a sense of confidence in the way the recruiters are approaching the conversations and interacting through that hiring life cycle. I think, we had always had an intake, but a key piece of the intake that we probably weren't as strong at, but now have developed a muscle for is that contracting conversation, which is, we had always talked through the role at some level, but maybe, lacked the depth that maybe needed to talk about like, what would this partnership look like in hiring the role? And, the recruiter is feeling empowered to not just let the hiring manager dictate exactly how things needed to go, but they had a voice. They had a chance to say what they needed to be able to set the recruitment up for success. And I think ultimately that's filled a lot of gaps. One, it's just helped with realistic expectation setting as it relates to timelines for recruitments. It's helped create clarity in terms of roles and responsibilities and what those interaction points are going to look like between the hiring leader and the recruiter. And then it's also just given them, again, like a sense of confidence to be positioned as somebody who has an expertise and who has a lot of value, and is able to articulate that value proposition better, to be able to, again, just kind of lay out what the process should look like and how, at the end, what success looks like.
And Jen, what have you noticed has shifted or changed?
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback off of what Brittney said, just in real life. I have my one-on-ones with my team, right? And if we're talking about this requisition that maybe the time to fill is starting to creep up, people have been stuck in the same stage for a while. And ultimately, when you double click, see what I did there, and just keep asking the whys to try to understand, it ultimately, in a lot of cases, comes down to either a lack of contracting on the front end or a need that was maybe missed to recontract throughout the process. So it has been really eye-opening for a lot of us to see that in a lot of those situations where we need to coach, it does come down to where was the contracting, what was discussed, we're also big on following up in writing, right? Mm-hmm. Making sure the leader knows and understands what's expected and knowing when it's time to recontract and not just waiting like we used to. Like, I've been waiting for the hiring manager to do this. Well, okay, well, what was said in the contracting? So it's been really eye-opening for the team to see. I totally understand the value, because when I do go back and recontract, that's when things start moving again. So that's been really quite fun to see. We do love a lot of the lingo that we learned. Double clicking is a big one that we love, right? So it's fun to see us continue to talk about it and see it, find ways that we can continue to incorporate it even beyond just the intake, right? Negotiation, when you get into a tricky situation. So we continue to evolve what we've learned just beyond the initial intake session.
Well, and, part of what we talk about with contracting, and for those who aren't familiar with flawless consulting, it is simply reaching an agreement on what you're doing and how you want to be in partnership with each other. And part of the process that we deliver is to move away from just being the expert, still using our expertise, getting out of that transactional role and being more collaborative and in partnership. And part of partnership is not only understanding what the client wants from you, but what you want from the client in order to help you be supportive and be successful. So how has it been, Brittney, navigating that kind of mental shift away from the mindset of the customer is always right to, I have expertise, you and I are going to partner together and let's structure this as a partnership, not just me filling that post and pray, to really being, the strategic weapon.
Yes, I will say it's a practice we continue to need to practice at. I think that, like, to Jen's point, it's been great because we have a common framework, a common language, so that when we do walk through some of these scenarios, we're able to ground ourselves back or give each other reminders of, not letting old practices creep back in. Not to say that doesn't happen. I'm sure that happens to all of us, but I feel like now at least we're able to recognize and have that self-awareness to say, hey, we need to pause here. And what can we do? We have the skill sets to go back to now to say, what could we do differently? So it's a continued practice. It's a continued way that we need to refine how we work. But I think the more that we do it, the more it's going to continue to stick.
Great. And Jen, you mentioned a lot about the type of work that you do outside of, partnering with the university. I know you have a lot of events. I know when I was visiting, every evening that I was there, people were going off to do different kinds of events. So for those who are in that space and are curious, what are some of the activities, the specific activities that you do outside of American Family to bring people in and introduce them to your organization?
Yeah, we have sort of two ends of the spectrum. We have our university partnerships, right, where we're focused on early careers. So obviously, University of Wisconsin-Madison is a big one for us here in Madison with our corporate headquarters here. We also partner with Northeastern out in Boston. We have a headquarters out in Boston as well. So we try to make it make sense from a local perspective. So beyond just career fairs, with as part of these contracts with these universities, we also do things like experiential learning, where we give project opportunities for students, like real life business problems for them to solve and come back and work with us on. We also do, we go into classrooms and we talk about whatever they want us to talk about, whether that be interviewing or resumes, or a lot of times we send the business, right? We'll send like business leaders to talk about data science and AI. So we do a lot of classroom visits. We also do a little bit with, I would say like one-on-one with different departments and try to meet their needs that way. We bring students on site to be able to, check out NHQ. Have you ever thought about insurance? Kind of changing the narrative around insurance. And then we also have our true partnerships, where those are community partnerships, organizations that really have good, diverse talent pools within them. And those activities look a little bit different, right? It could be a career fair. It could be access to resume databases. It could be attending networking events. So we do quite a bit with the communities and the universities to bring in both entry level and more senior level or experience level talent.
Great. And so when you're doing those things and all of those interfaces, not only, does the contracting or the consulting methodology work internally, certainly you're contracting with external customers and vendors as well. You and your entire TA team. How has that mindset supported not just what you're doing internally, but also how you interact with others?
Yeah, it is an important key set. I mean, when we talk about the partnership we have with University of Wisconsin-Madison, for example, it's a really comprehensive, partnership, and it does involve a lot of contracting, a lot of give and take, a lot of listening to understand, and listening not just to respond. So it's fun to see what we were doing in that space from a partnership perspective, but also, we're in a point right now where we're a little bit resource challenged. And so we need to kind of, this is what I need, sort of be brave and be bold and ask. So it absolutely applies in and out. Sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it, especially as Brittney says, as the muscle gets stronger. Some of the pieces are a little bit more uncomfortable, right? But that's where the biggest growth happens. But it is cool to see it, in an external consulting relationship from a partnership perspective as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Brittney, I'm curious, you have 19 members of your team who are geographically dispersed, I know of. How do you keep, that group connected and aligned with each other as you continue to support the organization?
Yes, I think I'll start with, I have two wonderful senior managers, Jen being one of them. And I think us being aligned as a leadership team on who we want to be as a team, what's important to us, what do we want our craft to look like, the services that we provide, how do those show up to the business? So just being really well aligned on who we are as a service provider is really, really important, because certainly we can do things as an entire team, but most of the time, some of those most impactful conversations or interactions or learnings are happening more at the local level or between peers. So that's why I just think it's really important to have that leadership alignment. But then from a team perspective, still creating those intentional connections where we're able to revisit topics that we know will apply across the board. Because I think, just to expand upon Jen's point of these skills applying external, I think, I've seen the team, and I know I have used it myself, used it internally with peers as well. So we have to work really closely. We call it business HR. They're like our HR generalists or our HR reps. We interface with them a lot in everything as it relates to workforce planning. It could be partnering on a talent strategy, and all of those things, require that same skill set of creating common understanding of what the goal is, how you're going to get there, what each other's role is through contracting and otherwise. So I think that's been like an added, maybe unintentional benefit that we've seen, or maybe that we didn't realize, but the applicability and the transferability has been fantastic.
Yeah. I'm always curious, we talk about being a consultant and delivering consulting skills, but many of the participants or people who come to an experience of flawless consulting would never call themselves that. They would say, I wouldn't give myself the title of consultant specifically. So, how has the mindset, I guess, of your team evolved after working through this process from being perhaps just more tactical to really being consultative and working with their internal clients?
Yeah, I've seen the team, especially the ones that were kind of like the notorious order takers. I think, as Brittney mentioned before, it is about empowerment, right? It is about, we as a leadership team, like, we are very clear on the expectations, right? But how you get there, you can still have your how. You can still be you in a way that feels comfortable. I think that was one of the big learnings for us as we were going through the practicing was, I'm not comfortable phrasing it that way. Like, I wouldn't say that. So they find a way to say the same thing in their own words. So again, I think us being really clear on the front end about what we expect and allowing them the flexibility to make that work within their framework. But I think one of the other really cool parts of it is they're learning from each other. So we do a great job of staying connected, certainly virtually with teams. For us, it was really important to do flawless in person together, to have that learning together. So we were hearing the same message at the same time and learning from each other. That was one of the pieces that made it most valuable. But just seeing like the chats that they have within each other, like, I'm in this situation, like, can somebody kind of help talk me through it? Can we role play this situation I'm in with this manager about location? So it's really neat to see them work within themselves to get their own solutions, as opposed to us as a leadership team saying, these are the questions we should ask in an intake, right? So it's been fun to see them move little bit by little bit into being more strategic and thinking much bigger picture than just the role they're filling at that very second.
Good. And with the moving little bit by little bit, or as you continue this journey, Brittney, what do you still hope for your TA team there at American Family?
Yeah, I think it's that development of the consultation skills, about being able to dig deeper, being able to go beyond just the surface level of, I have this role. It's like wanting to create just a really strong understanding. And that requires, like, again, just the thinking to be able to either ask why, to Jen's point, to ask the follow-up question, to be able to think about connections to other areas of the business that they may have. And it's also just remembering that we know that this skill set does take an investment of time too up front, but it's going to pay dividends in the results you're going to get and the time you're going to save at the back end. So I think that's also been just something that we're watching for too, is our recruiters have a lot of positions that they're responsible for filling. And sometimes in the past, I think speed has taken precedence, and that has, you find yourself just going through the motions. But then almost inevitably, you're getting caught at some point. You're getting caught because you're waiting for the manager. You're getting caught because you realize you're in an interview and you don't really understand the questions you're going to be asking, and you get to them and they're like, no, I don't like any of these people. Or you get caught because a bad hire was made. So I think, being able to also recognize the value of investing the time upfront will actually save you time in the long run. I think that continues to be a point of development, but I think people are seeing the value. And the minute that we start slipping, I think it's those things. It's just always trying to balance the speed to which we want to get work done with the quality. And I think you can have both if you're investing your time in the right places.
Yeah. So with the idea of speed and urgency, because that's always one of the biggest, burning platforms for anybody that we try to support as an internal client, what has been the reaction of your internal clients as you've started to shift away from just responding knee jerk and hurry up mindset to more intentional, collaboration? What are your internal clients thinking about all of that?
Jen, do you want to share your experiences?
Sure, I'll share. So I will also add that we just talked about it yesterday. We're actually in the process of adding a hiring manager survey that's going to get to and dig to how did your recruiter show up in the intake? Did they ask questions around this, right? Like getting that more specific feedback. But the feedback that I've heard from the business so far, I very distinctly remember I got one in December, which is about a month after we did Flawless 2, about my recruiter. So I'm a new manager. I just wanted to reach out about my recruiter, Molly. Like, she spent so much time with me asking questions, digging deeper into my team. And then she really did a good job of not only telling me what to expect next, but then also, sending me an email following up. But then she met what she said she was going to do. She actually said, one of my peer managers said, oh, just be ready. You're going to have to screen through the resumes and you're going to have to tell her who to interview. And that was not the experience that this particular manager had. And she was so just overjoyed with certainly the amount of time that Molly spent with her, but then the service and ultimately the outcome of who she ultimately hired. I will very distinctly remember that was contracting. That was Molly contracting. So when we get that unsolicited feedback, when you as a leader can just tell that they're doing what they learned, where they challenge a leader to think differently, that is the biggest compliment that we get. But then also, in high volume, our recruiters are bounced around a lot. They're not always working with the same team, and it's really important that managers have the same service expectations from whoever is working with them. It's critical in high volume spaces where it's extremely high pressure. We're on those tight timelines, but you can still fit in that contracting and consulting. And so driving consistency with the hiring managers, it's going to be fun to see that continue to evolve as we start to truly reach out and grab the feedback from the managers in the business.
Yeah, that will be fun to see the results.
It will.
Brittney, anything you would add to that?
I will add, it has been a change curve for some hiring leaders in terms of the time investment up front. Some have been used to just and this will probably ring true for all time, but it's how quickly can you get it posted? Then let's get going. So we continue to face of just again, the sense of urgency and just trying to ensure they make the time to have that conversation with us. So I think that it will be and still is a change curve for us with the hiring leaders. But I think to Jen's point, once they see the value, they're bought in. So I think, as we kind of work with more and more hiring leaders, it'll ease it. But, it's a new practice for them. It's a new investment of time. And we'll continue to work through that too.
It was super interesting. I was a hiring manager shortly after Flawless. And I will say, my knee jerk was I was that hiring manager, right? That was all over my recruiter, who's in the pool. And then life, it just got busy, right? And so when my recruiter did everything she was supposed to do, right? She screened the candidates. I didn't even look at the pool, right? What she took off of my plate in that moment was such a gift. And ultimately the end outcome, I couldn't have asked for more. If I tried to control it, it would have taken a lot longer. It would have annoyed her, right? Because and she kept saying, this is my job. This is my job, Jen. So it was really eye-opening for me to be a hiring leader and see it come to fruition and into play. And also, I have some empathy for hiring managers. It is hard. You want to control. You're nervous. The hire you make, that's on you, right? But trusting the process and trusting the screening and trusting what my recruiter knew and understood, that ultimately made all the difference in the world. And I'm thrilled with who we ended up with. And I didn't have to do a million interviews either. That was beautiful as well.
So as the hiring manager, what did your consultant do that led you to trust them? That's a big ask.
I was messing around in the requisition, and I was, it's tricky having been a recruiter and being a manager. And I was messing around and I was looking at candidates and I was starting to do yes, no, maybes. And then it was getting really a lot. And she's let me take a stab. She ran a couple of profiles by me and I gave her some feedback. And And then she ultimately just did her screens. And she's like, this is the value that I provide. I am this neutral third party that can assess the talent based on what you told me that you need. Like, just trust me, right? And so then again, that was kind of the moment where I was like, this is actually a huge time save. And I do want that unbiased opinion in my process. Because if I would just go through it, unconscious bias is there, right? So it was at that moment when she caught me digging around in the requisition. And I said, I'm that manager. I'm so sorry. And so let me step back. And she just kept saying, this is my role. I understand what you're looking for. I will get you what you need. So that was a big turning point, but very eye-opening.
Well, it's nice that you could notice it in yourself, right? Yeah.
It wasn't great my first time hiring right after Flawless, because
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been very different
Yeah.
months ago. 100%, it would have been very different.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one of the things that you said too earlier that I found interesting was, as a high volume area, it's very important that your recruiters all show up in the same way. So not just in high volume, but across all of talent acquisition, it is important that they all show up in the same way. One of the things that I've learned in my experience is if I don't get the answer I want from one person, I'll just go to the next person and then to the next person until I get the answer that I do want. So by bringing your team together, right, and going through a shared experience, you've created an opportunity for that. How is that working, Brittney? As you see your team being deployed, I know that it's still an opportunity for continued development, but overall, do you see your team more aligned now than ever before?
Absolutely. And it's given us a lot more flexibility too, and confidence that we can move recruiters to where the need is. So in the past, we had to be very segmented. Our hiring leaders were very used to and fond of their one or two recruiters that they worked with. But in the space that we are in now, we don't have that flexibility to just have fully devoted recruiters. And we needed to move to more of an agile model where we could deploy based upon where the hiring needs are. So having confidence in just a standard process, a standard experience, to Jen's point, a standard level of service that our hiring leaders can expect has absolutely given us more flexibility and agility as a team to respond to the needs that the business has.
That's awesome.
I think it's been cool to see the recruiters' confidence really go up as well. So Beverly, we call that answer shopping, when people are looking for the answer they want. And I have a more junior level recruiter on my team, and she consulted on something that it's a touchy subject. It was location, and she consulted with the business, and they came answer shopping to me as her leader, like trying to like check her or like find out if she was wrong. And I was like, actually, that was perfect, right? And the confidence that it gave certainly the business and the recruiter, but also the recruiter to know that, yeah, you know what, I can do this. I can have these really hard conversations. I'm doing it correctly. It shut it down, right? It was a trust-based moment, and she did everything like I wanted her to. And they were trying to catch her or whatever they were doing. And it was just a confidence builder and a relationship builder for everybody involved. So that's been kind of a cool part to see. It is confidence. It is being, this is who I am. This is what I do, right? And not, you don't always tell me what to do. So.
Well, and I think too, there should be, recognition and celebration of you, Brittney, and you, Jen, and your other management team who obviously has done great work in contracting with your team, right? So that they understand how they need to show up in partnership with you, how they should show up in partnership with each other, and how they should show up in partnership with the clients that you serve. So it releases some of that ambiguity or assumptions. And we know in that land that or unmet expectations occurs. So by being very intentional with that, you've reduced that opportunity quite a bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. Well, we're getting closer to the end of our hour with each other, so I think we should be able to have any Q&As come in. So if anyone is interested in asking a question specifically, there is a space for you to input your questions. At least I believe so. Maya, who is our technical director on the call. Maya, if there's any questions that come in, let me know. if it's working. We'll see if that part's working. Someone submits a question. And while we're waiting for those questions, if there's any, I think, Brittney, what's something that I didn't ask or something that you would like to share with others around just talent acquisition, your experience, where you see the future headed?
Yeah, I think what I was most excited about with this content and just the skills that we learned was it's not specific to talent acquisition. It's not specific to business to HR. These skills really can be applied in any field that you're in. And so to me, it was just a huge development opportunity and win for our team that not only did I feel could accelerate us in our work, but really felt would benefit the team as they think about their career journey or their career path, building their transferable skill sets so that, regardless of where their career journey takes them, we were providing them some development that could help enhance, their portfolio of talent to be able to achieve that.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Mhm.
And Jen, how about you? Anything you'd like to add?
Well, I'll add the personal touch. I also think we do joke a little bit about how you can use this in your marriage or your relationship. And so that it sounds silly, or even contracting with your peer, like I need your help doing these phone screens, like that is a mini contract. But we joke about it, but it also in my mind, I'm like, this is continuing to like work that muscle and reiterate. So it's fun to hear how people go into consulting with their spouse. It sounds silly, but it is the same skill set. Like if you really take it apart. So to Brittney's point, being able to take it to any role you're in, I mean, what a gift to somebody's resume to have this on their resume. But then to be able to like leverage it in relationships and in your personal life is like a double plus. It's like amazing win.
Absolutely. And if you facilitate this enough virtually, your kids hear you, and later on they'll say, "Sounds like you didn't do good contracting, Mom." I've had my both of my kids inform me I did poor contracting at one time or another. So thanks a lot. I do have a question though. A question came in is, as you think about talent acquisition and the where you're at and the things that you have planned for the future, what courage is required of you now? Maybe to go to the next step. What courage is required of you now? Brittney, Jen?
Yeah. I think about a couple different things. I think one, when I think about the team and courage, I think the biggest step of courage that they've needed to just continue to enhance their consulting skills is feeling okay with asking for what they need. That takes courage to ask, of something you need when you are in like a service provider role. So many times, like I feel like the team just believes like we are in service of the business, which is true, but that doesn't mean that we have to do exactly what that service provider needs of us. So I think that has needed courage from the team to step in and ask those questions and think about, what they themselves need. And then if I think about talent acquisition as a whole, no surprise to, I'm sure, anybody on this call, but the work specifically in talent acquisition and work everywhere is being impacted by AI and thinking about automation and how, the core interactions and the core features of how we do our work, we need to be questioning. And I feel like it takes courage to step in and ask about how we need to be doing our work differently when we know that there's opportunity to, whether that be to automate it, whether that be to enhance it. But I think those are the questions we need to be asking. And sometimes those can feel a little bit perceived as like a threat to an individual because that's what they've been doing. That's how they know to do it. But I think not doing that, it puts the team more at a risk than exploring it itself.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jen, what courage is required of you right now?
Yeah, I'm just thinking a little bit about like the courage that it takes. Part of consulting and contracting is being an informal leader, right? And that is not a role that a lot of our recruiters are super comfortable in, right? Whether it be a competence issue, whether it be like a hierarchy issue where I can't push back on that VP, like, you know, and then they back down. And so for my team, I think especially it's the courage to take that informal leadership and just take the knowledge that you have and the relationships that you're building, and continue to leverage that to make things even better yet. So think beyond what we're doing in this moment. What else can we continue to do that's going to continue to elevate us? Because we're going to need to keep doing that, right? We're going to need to keep continue to shift and evolve. And everybody knows change is super uncomfortable, but the more, again, like the more you do it, it does get slightly easier. But we really want the recruiters to have a say in kind of where we're going and where we're headed. Actually, the consulting was their idea. Initially, we gave them some ideas of what we could learn together, and that was ultimately what they decided as a team, which was a big part of the buy-in, I think, as well, because they identified that gap in themselves. So getting that self-awareness, developing those informal leaders, pushing back where appropriate, but stepping back and being able to say, I don't know, let me ask, is where I want to take the team next.
Yeah. It goes to what we talked about in the session. Stop being helpful and start being useful. Yeah.
Yes.
Moving from being helpful to being useful, which is a different mindset and a different way of showing up. Most certainly.
Very,
Yeah.
very. I love that one.
Us too. So as we near the end of our time together, just curious, as we've talked through your experience and what you're doing, what value has this conversation been to you?
I think for me, it's been a great reflection point of just being able to think through the experiences, the learnings, how they've applied to our work. So I think the value is just the reinforcement that we are doing the right things and it's working. We're not probably ever going to be all the way perfect, but we're making the right steps. We're progressing in the ways that we wanted to. And I think, the value continues to be like, keep going, and keep working towards those skills because they're exactly what we had hoped they'd be when we set out to do this.
Yeah, I'll say word of mouth is big, right? So I'm so excited to share the experience that we had. What ultimately drew us to Flawless is one of our other senior managers had gone through it at a previous employer, and she raved about it and raved about how she was able to continue to apply what she learned at, the next role, how she applied it in another recruiting team, right? So that somebody having the direct experience and saying, I'm telling you, this works. It's, you can make it what you need it to be, was such a big driver for us ultimately, deciding on this was the best thing for us as a team. I mean, we went to market. There's a lot of consulting classes out there, right? And to have the credibility behind it and to have the personal experience, somebody who's gone through it and truly, genuinely benefited from it, I'm excited to share that with other people. So that's been a huge value.
Well, thank you. And thank you both so much for taking time to share your story, to spend some time with me on the phone. It's been wonderful to reconnect with you. I felt very much a part of the AmFam family when I was in Wisconsin, and do miss interacting with you. So this was a great excuse for us to get back together again, reconnect, and say hello and hear about all of the great things that you're doing. So thank you both for joining us. We truly appreciate it. We'll be making a recording available for those of you who want to listen again, and for those who are unable to join, on behalf of myself and everybody at Design Learning. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of those who joined us. We appreciate it. And thank you, Maya, for your support today.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.